If anyone has played Geometry Dash, they would know that each of the 22 main levels has a difficulty ranging from easy to demon. But if you've played through some levels, you'll probably think that the difficulty displayed was incorrect. And some people, if not a lot, agree. So, as the title suggests, I'll look through each main level and reassign the difficulty for it. This is just my own opinion, so don't think I'm right or wrong, and feel free to disagree. I'm only going through the main game since the other spin-off games have levels that don't need reassigning, or its difficulty is not displayed at all. I also won't discuss the coins because they are just rewards and don't influence the difficulty. With all of that said, let's start with the first level of the game, Stereo Madness, which is definitely easy. Since it's the first level of the game, it's going to have what you expect from easy 2-star levels. It has easy jumps, easy gameplay, easy fakes, easy ship parts, and easy transitions. It's the introduction to Geometry Dash in general, so I won't analyze this level in much detail. What's noteworthy about the difficulty of modern easy levels is the amount of downtime they have, and downtime is just doing absolutely nothing. Because Stereo Madness is the first level of the game, it will have a lot of downtime, until it won't. Speaking of the ship section, it's what you'd expect, a tutorial for the ship, so no analysis here. Moving on, Stereo Madness starts to get slightly harder, but not by too much, if it wasn't obvious by the introduction of triple spikes. There's only 2 triple spikes in Stereo Madness, and they're not crazy enough to bump up the difficulty. The ship part after is just completely normal, and that's all for Stereo Madness. Overall, Stereo Madness is a good example for an easy level. There's no difficult sections that feel technical enough to bump up the level's difficulty. Good job, Stereo Madness. Next up is Back on Track, which to some people, is apparently easier than Stereo Madness. Let's find out. Back on Track introduces a new mechanic for the game, jump pads. They're really popular mechanics, so there's no doubt a lot of custom levels are using it. The way Back on Track plays around with jump pads is solid, because the entire level is centered around this one mechanic. The beginning has a tiny section where there are 3 jump pads, which all have to be avoided, otherwise you'd crash right into the spikes. This is a good way to show the player that not all jump pads are reliable and safe. Since Back on Track is the second level, more back-to-back jumping is involved. Moving on to the ship part, which doesn't use any jump pads because the physics behind them can make them really janky for ship sections, and they're also a little tricky to use in ship sections in general. The ship section does have taller and harder obstacles, and a little corridor near the end. After the ship section, the level gets a little more technical, and more jump pads are present until the end. Overall, Back on Track is a harder level than Stereo Madness, but nothing too much of a difficulty jump. I think Rob Top should have left this level with an easy normal difficulty, because of all the technical gameplay. Polargeist introduces another new mechanic, jump orbs. They're more significantly used in custom levels, because you have to click again to activate them, which leads to some more interesting gameplay. Polargeist introduces them in the same way Back on Track does, with the player having no choice but to interact with them in the beginning. The beginning is the same difficulty as Back on Track's beginning section, with their new mechanics being used here and there. Some orbs are chained together pretty early, though. The ship section is filled with black squared obstacles, which is a little easy for the third level of the game, not gonna lie. With the flying experience from the 2 previous levels, new players can get through this part really easily. So as the previous 2 levels, Polargeist ramps up in difficulty, uses back-to-back jumping, and uses really stupid choke points in coin paths. So, because of the new jump orbs, Polargeist can stay as normal. Dry Out is another level that introduces a new mechanic, gravity switching. Like jump orbs and jump pads, gravity switching is also a main mechanic used in custom levels. Although, Dry Out isn't centered around gravity switching. There's only one upside-down section in the entire level, so they're pretty underutilized here. The beginning is a bit more challenging than the previous 3 levels, with a few tricky spots. The beginning section also doesn't use any pads or orbs at all. There are only 2 jump orbs, and 5 jump pads, including the coin route, in the entire level. Moving on to the upside-down section, which a lot of new players had to flip their iPads for. The upside-down section isn't super hard like new players find it. It's an easy introduction to the gravity portal, with the same difficulty as the beginning section. Although, near the end of the section, there is a tricky set of jumps. And all you have to do is just hold, but new players couldn't already figure it out. But, because you have to hold, the tricky bit is a sign that the level did increase in difficulty from the previous 3 levels. Anyway, the rest of the level has little tight timings in some spots, the ship section is easier than the entire level, and it's straightforward to the end. I think this level could be a pretty easy hard, specifically because of the fact that there are timings present in the level. What does base after base introduce? Nothing. Oh, that's a little weird. It's because base after base is actually a test level to challenge the player in skills they already learned. This includes back-to-back jumping, lots of hold inputs, orb, pad, and gravity switch usage, jump timings, and harder ship flying practice. The start of the level is nothing very special, it's just harder difficulty that's the same as dry out. The drop ramps in difficulty a little bit, with excessive jumping, and a few one-block gaps that are definitely not going to be overused in the next level. The ship section is a small step up in difficulty, with the addition of corridors. Regardless, the obstacles inside the section are extremely avoidable with past flying experience. We finally get an upside-down section in the level, which difficulty is the exact same as the drop. The rest is just straightforward gameplay. So, there's no sudden difficulty spikes in the level, and the difficulty is a smooth ramp up from the previous levels. I think this can stay as a pretty easy hard, the same difficulty as dry out, because the difficulty curve is super gradual in this level. Can't Let Go is another challenge level, but way harder than the 5 previous levels, that's for sure. There are way more jump timings, more fake orbs, more triple spikes, and more idiotic coins. The beginning definitely shows all of this. Well, after the background turns pinkish red, that's where it starts to show its true colors. I can't really repeat myself again, this part has timings. Oh, wait, I just repeated myself. Let's just move on to the drop, which goes hard. Remember what I said about one-block gaps? You probably didn't care about them, but just know that Can't Let Go uses more one-block gaps than the amount of times Time Machine uses triple spikes. Very unimportant, let's move on. The ship part is definitely harder than base after base, but not by much. There's even another corridor section. Still not important, let's just move on. Alright, here's the moment you've all been waiting for. The infamous upside-down section, one of the hardest by many players in Geometry Dash. I gotta say, what was RobTop really thinking when he changed this difficulty to hard? I know it's a short upside-down section, but there are so many timings throughout the level, especially the beginning, that this part completely justifies the change of the level's difficulty. I know I said we wouldn't go through coins in these levels, but what makes this confusing is the pink pad for the recovery onto the main path. There could have been so many ways for RobTop to hide the recovery better, but he just didn't. This pink pad is completely visible, and because of that, new players would get so confused because they don't even know what it is yet. This is a terrible design choice made by RobTop, but this criticism is meant for another topic, one that I'm not going to be covering in this video. After that monstrosity, the level has some more triple spikes and jump timings, and I think you know which jump timings I'm talking about by this point. I died here a lot because of the jump timings and triple spikes, and it doesn't help that this is basically the end of the level. It's not a bad design choice, though. What else do I need to say, really? This is going straight up to harder. Jumper's our last challenge level for now, and it's much, much easier than Can't Let Go. Like the name suggests, this level is way more focused on jumping, and the beginning section immediately tells us this. One thing you may have also noticed, is that Jumper actually has more than one upside-down section. Speaking of gravity portals, the ship part uses them. It's definitely not a bad thing, because if it didn't use those, then the ship part would be way more boring. The introduction is pretty solid, even if the gameplay looks absolutely empty. Although, new players, including me, thought it was over for them. The cube part right after is just some casual, ramped-up gameplay, until we reach the corridor section. It's pretty tight, but it's not super hard, and it has some good usage for back-to-back gravity switching. There's another easy ship part right after, then some hard cube gameplay with more jumping to the end. Overall, this level's a huge breath of fresh air for the game's difficulty curve, but I don't think this level should change difficulty, mainly because of the name of the level. This level is definitely easier than Can't Let Go, but they will share the same difficulty section. Sometimes, I just want to go back to the past. Like a time machine, or something. Oh, sweet. But, let's push the jokes aside for now. Yeah, so I hope the difficulty curve can survive longer because it has to choke again. Never ask how many triple spikes Time Machine uses. There's also some more jump timings. Normally, I would go in depth in this level, like I did in the other levels, but no specific sections stand out in difficulty. The entire level is very consistent in its difficulty, so I won't change this one. Having the level insane might be too easy, but it doesn't mean that the level is easy, it's still a very harder. A lot of you guys probably expected a rant when I got to this level. Okay, there's no denying that Cycles seems harder than Time Machine. After all, the only cube part has millions of fake orbs and pads. But, it's the only cube part, if we exclude the other one, in the entire level, so this doesn't change a lot, thankfully. Wait, what's that orange portal that has a white saw in the middle? Enter the ball game mode, a game mode that's also used for variation in custom levels. Cycles introduces the game mode well. It's easy, fun to play, no stupid parts, no bad coins, no whatever in the world this is, and it's entirely straightforward. You're used to gravity portals in ship sections, right? No. Well, screw you, here's like 9 of them. This part is out of nowhere, but it's good practice for gravity switching. Next up is a empty cube part, for some reason. But after that is a final, long ball part. The beginning of the ball part is a little tight, but after a few attempts, it becomes possible. The rest of the ball part is fair and straightforward, much like the introduction to the ball game mode. Overall, this level can actually share the same difficulty as Time Machine, a harder. Cycles is definitely harder than Time Machine, though. We are dangerously close to the demon difficulty. Is this a good sign? Let's just play through it. That wasn't so hard. Am I just a pro at this game? No, you're not. This level is too easy to be insane. Okay, I know we have to make levels difficult for the player, it has been 10 levels after all. But, come on, Rob Top, at least make it accurate. This is about the same difficulty as Jumper. Sure, the level introduces more types of pads and orbs, like the cyan ones, but XStep barely introduces them. The first instance of them is in this pre-drop in the ship part, so new players can get confused on what they do. I was going to give this the same difficulty as Cycles, but if you just play both of them, you can see a clear line of the difficulty. I won't go in depth in this one because I don't really want to repeat myself. Nothing else for me to say, I'm bumping this one down to harder. Apparently, some people think that Clutterfunk should be a demon. Why, exactly? Is it because it's an actual insane unlike XStep?
It's because it's an actual insane unlike XStep.
We'll get to that in our verdict, though. Anyway, the level introduces size portals, which are portals that make you turn small or normal size. Does Clutterfunk introduce it well? Yeah, it does. It's super easy to adjust to, since everything is as shrunken down as you. The next ship and mini ball part are fine. Then we get to the mini ship, which has some ramped up difficulty. There's only 2 spots where most people die, but after a few attempts, this part becomes possible. Now we get into a long cube part, with a lot of back-to-back size portals and fake orbs. This is probably the section where everybody was dying at, and you can totally see that in the YouTube comments. If everything up to this point made you think that this level is too easy to be insane, you're going to stand corrected. Just play the level and you'll see exactly why this is the final challenge for the level. You repeatedly change size, there's some triple spikes and tight timings, there's back-to-back orbs which you have to process which ones to hit and which ones to skip. This part ends with a nice little staircase. Overall, this level is definitely insane. Anyone who says this is a demon needs to get a tiny bit better. Phew. The difficulty line can finally breathe again. Theory of everything opens with a cube section that you can pass by either actually doing the level, or just spamming. The ship part introduces a nice little gimmick this level has, pick-a-paths. I would talk about them more, but since the correct path is always marked with an arrow, they basically have no challenge. This level also introduces pink pads, which are jump pads that bump you up shorter. They're nothing too important anyway. There's another cube part where you go inside walls, and then you go into the UFO section. Theory of everything introduces this game mode nicely, since there's a safe ground you can touch. It's also straightforward, like any other game mode introduction. The cube part after has this funny little spot where there's 3 orbs but you only have to hit 2 of them, so you skip the last one. This is only going to trick players once, so it's just a funny little one-time trick. The level continues to the second UFO part at the drop, which is a little harder than the last UFO section. There's also some more pick-a-path parts. The level stays the same difficulty until the end, so I might change this one to a harder instead of an insane. Also, I know that this one is a fake insane, just like XStep, but I like this level way more than XStep so I won't bash it. Welcome, Electroman Adventures, to the party where levels are clearly not insane. Let's still go in depth because I also really like this level. Electroman Adventures starts with a normal cube part that introduces breakable blocks. You might think that breakable blocks would be used throughout the level, but not everything that you think is true, unfortunately. The level is still the same difficulty as Theory of Everything, until the transition, which everybody hates. It's a little trippy, but with some more attempts, you can probably get through it. After that, the level gets really fun, and everything goes hard, which is probably why this level is my favorite. Overall, this is just the same difficulty as Theory of Everything. So, I'm going to say that RobTop shouldn't have changed this one to Insane, because it's definitely harder. Hey Clubstep. Those, are some nice horns you have. Like the demon face suggests, this level is a demon, which is a difficulty way more scarier than these innocent 5. Clubstep's obviously going to be an exam for all the previous mechanics you've already learned, with the addition of some sneaky invisible blocks and spikes. Since there's only one demon variant used for the RobTop levels, and it would be too easy for a medium demon, I can't change this one. Yeah, that's it. I've seen a lot of people think that Electrodynamix should be a demon, because of it being unbalanced, so I'll go into this level part by part so we can see what difficulty it really is. The level opens with a fairly slow cube part, until it doesn't become slow anymore, because we change speed in this level, which is totally not the reason why people think the level's demon. The 2x speed cube also has 2 invisible quadruple spikes which really annoyed me when I was new, and a lot of people as well. It's something that can trip you up even after you beat the level for the first time, but it can take time to not constantly die here. Also, there's a stupid maze part to the transition, which is definitely going to add some marks. The ship part after can look a little challenging, but if you beat the demon level, new players can probably get through it. What's real intimidating is the UFO part right after, where you constantly change gravity, and there's a precise click pattern. This would be insanely hard for new players if they've skipped Clubstep, since the UFO sections in previous levels are very open and don't require a precise click pattern. The difficulty of this part might depend on whether you've gotten used to the UFO part's tight spots in Clubstep. The mini UFO in the same part is pretty easy. The next few parts aren't worth covering in detail since they're all casual gameplay that you can get through really easily. But, the level shows you that those parts were the cusp before the tipping point, because you go even faster. If what I'm saying wasn't obvious enough, this level takes a lot of practice attempts to get consistent at, and this part helps that. Because of the tightness and the speed you're going at, you're very likely to go crashing up to the roof, or crashing right into the spikes. Well, the second ship part especially. I could go on about this part, but I don't even know how long this video has been going for. Basically, all you need to know is that this part looks simple, but high speed makes it a major pain. The cube part after is a little easier but not by much, especially because of the quadruple spikes towards the end, and the last ship part is not easy, but I can't rant about it right now. I think this level needs to be more balanced because there's a lot of easy parts followed by sudden insane parts that are almost worth demon territory. This level is dangerously close to demon difficulty, so I have to give it insane in the meantime, but if there is a new difficulty that is between insane and demon, that's where it's at. This is the 5th level that is a breather for the difficulty curve. A little unrelated, but I wanted to share it anyway. But, apparently, some people think that this is a demon. You have got to be joking. So this level introduces 2 things, slopes, and the dual portal. Slopes are super easy to adapt to, but you do have to get used to jumping off them rather than staying idle, and the dual portal looks simple but once it's not symmetrical, it isn't anymore. The level up to the introductory dual section is pretty casual, so I'll skip right to it. This section is where a lot of people have problems, specifically at 40%, where the 2 icons split off into the 2 ship portals. Okay, this part is pretty hard to get consistent at, because even I myself still fails on this part occasionally. Some people do need to chill, though. I think it's just a tricky spot where you have to pay attention to each icon, which prepares you a little bit for asymmetrical dual sections. The dual ship after is a nice symmetrical section, and the rest of the level up to the dual ball is nothing noteworthy. I do like to acknowledge this large orb chain, I think it's pretty cool. The dual ball part is another dual section where you have to pay attention to each ball, the section is pretty short this time. It's more trickier than the other cube part since slopes are involved, but most of what I said in the other dual part applies here as well. And, the rest of the level is smooth sailing. Overall, because of the 2 dual sections, this can remain insane as an easy one. In terms of difficulty, blast processing is probably the least interesting to talk about. The whole level is really easy because of the lack of size and speed portals, so I'll probably skim over it. This level introduces the wave, which was a big game mode for the harder demons. Like Theory of Everything in Cycles, the level introduces it well. There's a dual wave part shortly after, which feels a little satisfying to play, but it's still easy considering the level before. The level continues to slightly get harder, but it's pretty hard to see a difference. The end part has some invisible blocks that are not difficult to get through, and the level ends with a cool countdown. Hope you've been enjoying this break so far, because here's another level to choke you. Although, I'm just going to say this level is harder than Clubstep. Just look at the cursed ship part, for goodness sake. I can't say anything else, so, on to the next one. Geometrical Dominator is a fun level, because the visuals are awesome. But, that's not the point. This level introduces something called move triggers, which move objects. The first instance of them is in the beginning, where two pillars move up to save you from falling and crashing down. There's probably a better way to introduce them, since new players can get a little bit confused from this. Move triggers aside, this level also introduces the robot, which is basically the Cube 2.0. Unlike the Cube, you can control how high you jump, but you can't hold, unfortunately. Anyway, the robot introduction is solid. The level continues to a ship part, which plays around with some more move triggers, creating this fun little elevator. There's another cube part shortly after that does the same thing that the first cube does, but way worse. There's a 2x robot section that is filled with rainbows and happy little clouds, until we get to the memory section. The memory section is pretty tough for new players, since there's not a lot of memory in non-demon levels. However, this part isn't actually hard like how everybody describes it, because it only requires a few practice runs to memorize the layout. The obstacles and platforms could be shown a little earlier, but it's a little fine for now, and I think it's okay that there's one hard part in this level. The rest of the level is straightforward after that, with introductions of some green diamonds. Because of the memory section, this level can remain as harder, simply because the memory section isn't as impossible as people think. I would brush off this level, since it's another demon for the game, but there's also some controversy on whether this level is difficult to be an easy or medium demon. I guess it's time for another full analysis. Never mind, because what's the point if I'm just going to say, deal with it, it's not a medium demon, after. I also just realized that there's only 6 base difficulties used in the Rob Top levels, so there is no point. This level's demon, anyway. Look, Fingerdash is a cool level and all, but if we're going to address the elephant in the room, we can't talk about this level that much. This level introduces the spider, and it introduces it well. Yeah, like I said, there's nothing interesting about this level's difficulty. Well, other than the fact that it's entirely wrong. I can't find any hard parts that make this level worth insane, so it's getting bumped down to harder. Same as Fingerdash, really. Well, there you have it. All 22 levels analyzed for you. Yeah, this was probably a different video because it wasn't used to what I normally upload. I also got tired of staying silent in my previous videos, so that explains the text-to-speech AI thingy. I hope you liked this video, and if you didn't, you can leave a comment explaining why. Goodbye, everyone, and see you in another 5 months.